Welcome to this special edition of Gibco Cell Culture Heroes Work from Home. My name is Chelsea Jimenez, and I'm representing Gibco and Thermo Fisher Scientific, and I will be your moderator today. So typically our Cell Culture Heroes webinars are used to give PhDs and postdoc researchers a platform to talk about their research on a global scale. But today, I am just so proud to be joined by 6 of our past Gibco Cell Culture Heroes as they come together and they share with us their experiences with working from home and their tips and tricks of working from home for staying connected to their research, their lab mates, and their friends. So this presentation will be in more like an interview format where I can ask questions that will enable the panel of heroes to share their best practices of being productive, staying connected, and keeping a healthy outlook while this stay-at-home guidance. So I will be asking the heroes questions from the audience throughout the presentation as well. So please submit your questions by filling in the Ask a Question box down below. You can direct your questions to a specific hero or the whole group. Your questions may be focused on working from home, but they can also talk about or be questions aimed to hear about how the heroes are coping with their stay-at-home guidance in their personal or social lives. So I would like to start this webinar by introducing our speakers, and you'll see our speakers give a little hello when I introduce them. You can also learn more about the speakers by looking at the tabs. You'll be able to look at their profiles as well. So first, I would like to introduce actually our very first Gibco Cell Culture Hero, Dr. Kristine Wadosky. Second, I would love to introduce, thanks Kristine. I would love to introduce Dr. Ameet Chimote.
Hello.
Next, Dr. Elizabeth Delery.
Hey, you guys.
Dr. Daisy Shu.
Hi, everyone.
Dr. Vivek Kamat.
Hello, everyone. Namaste.
And Dr. Sandra Hammer.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, heroes. I'm so happy to be here with you today. We go back quite a bit, you and I. So, heroes, I will direct questions to you specifically. However, if I don't ask you a specific question and you would like the opportunity to answer this question that was not directed to you, please chime in. I would love to hear from you and give you the chance to touch on all the topics that are important to you. And to our audience members, I would love to hear from you too. So I encourage you to tweet your answers to the questions live from the webinar, tag @Gibco, and use hashtag Gibco Cell Culture Heroes. And here are the instructions here. Gibco Cell Culture Heroes. And so let's get started. Okay. This first question is for Daisy and Vivek. Hi, Daisy. Hi, Vivek. Daisy, we can start with you. How are you staying connected this time with not only your research, but with people that you are used to seeing day to day?
Hi, everyone. Okay, so for work, it's been essentially a lot of Zoom meetings and emails. But I found it actually kind of refreshing to have a departmental seminar series conducted by Zoom because people can ask questions and link papers, and ordinarily you'd have to like email the person after the talk, but now you don't. You can just like link them immediately. So that's been really good, and I feel like also the barrier to asking questions, sometimes it can be quite intimidating. So when it's online, I hear like all these new questions coming out from different people who don't ordinarily ask questions. So that's been really great. And I've had my recurrent meetings, weekly meetings with my supervisor. So I just had one today, actually. We have one every Tuesday at 10. And we also have fortnightly meetings with a bigger lab group. So that's been really great because we've maintained that kind of contact with everyone. In terms of socially, I've maintained contact with my friends via video chats and audio chats, texting and social media. So it's been really great to maintain that engagement with everyone, and actually just all around the world. I feel like because it's impacted everyone globally, I feel like we're reaching out to people, often people I haven't been in contact with for a while. So that's bringing everyone together, which is kind of nice.
I agree. How about you, Vivek?
I completely agree with Daisy. Actually, the same format is something which we are also following. But we have been doing this in a kind of a unique way because our group basically focuses more on interdisciplinary research. So we have been working into a lot of research associated with wound sensors or research which is for wearable biosensors. And the good part about the group is like we have a very diverse group. So we have graduate students and undergraduate students, PhD students from various disciplines like electrical engineering. We have from biochemistry, chemistry, and the way we are doing it is like, so every student has been assigned a specific duty. Students who are majorly doing work into electrical engineering are involved with building up of circuits. Students who are into more of computer science are doing simulation work, or they're doing some programming, coding at home. People who are into biochemistry and myself, we are at home. We are focusing more on writing grants, working on research papers. So in that aspect, at least I would say the research component is not that much affected because we already have quite substantial work which everyone has taken lead into that area. On another aspect is we are also kind of working together. So we have like group meetings. It's quite often. So our PI, Dr. Bansali, he has group meetings. I mean, we conduct group meetings like almost, I guess, twice a week. And I'm like communicating with every graduate student twice a day. Sometimes it happens thrice a day because it's like, so everyone is having their own small setup at their house. And, it's like at least twice a day we speak with each other. We try to show circuits or we try to discuss some problems. So, so working from home has been kind of exciting. And yes, obviously, so research is not that much affected. So it's kind of fun.
That's great. I like the way that you do that. You split the work, or I guess responsibility, so that everybody feels like they're still contributing while at home. I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Vivek. So our next question is for Kristine. So Kristine, you are one of the few scientists within this group, at least, that can go into the lab for minimal hours to take care of your cultures due to the vital projects that you have. So how has this experience been like for you? And then also, how are you staying connected while then out of the lab when you're not, allowed to be with yourself?
Yes, so we're taking so our laboratory members have been deemed essential at our institute, largely due to our lab's work focused largely on genetically engineered mouse models of cancer. And that work really takes, on the level of years. So the colony that I'm working on, that took about 3.5 years, and we still haven't published it yet. We hope to submit this year. So, and also the Animal Welfare Act deems that we, need to care for these animals. So we have basically each taken different time per day and go in during that time, so we don't really overlap. And I work about 4 to 5 hours in the lab, during which time I also manage the organoids. We have mouse tumor-derived organoids as well as human patient tumor-derived organoids. Those grow very slowly, so we were not even sure we can recover them all yet from frozen culture. So we I mean, we're doing the best we can, but I mean, if a week isn't even enough for us to freeze down things. We are freezing down sperm of all of our mouse lines. However, that also takes, 2 months to really confirm that. I don't know if this will go on that long. So, anyway, but for the rest of the time, I'm working from home. I've been analyzing data that I've been collecting for years on organoid growth capacity. So I have hundreds of images that my student also is helping me, Mauricio. I know he's there also. And we've been working, I know he's logged in, and we've been working on that as well. And honestly, that's been on a lower priority list for me. So it's nice to bring some of the things that have been a lower priority in the face of the bench work, to bring them, higher up, because all the things need to get done anyway, eventually. So, it's been nice. I'm an introvert, so I've been really pretty calm, at least.
Yeah, you've been in your prime when you've been thriving in quarantine.
Pretty much in the zone. We actually haven't had a lab meeting come up, but due to the extreme length of time we take to do our studies with our mice, we have lab meetings only like once to twice a month. So we will be doing that over Zoom. So.
Okay. Thanks, Kristine. That actually, you being in the lab and talking about freezing down cells that that you can't continue on working on right now, ties in nicely with this first audience member's question. So this question comes from audience member Hyatt from the University of Minnesota, and they want to know, how are you managing taking care of the cells in the culture lab during this time? So I would like to direct this question to Sandra. So Sandra, are there any cells in your lab? Are there any projects that are allowed to be ongoing? And if not, what are your cells doing right now?
Yeah, so luckily our lab, our cells they're primary cells, but we have the ability to freeze them. So our lab manager is the only one who's been going into lab, and thank goodness for her, she's been able to hold down the fort there. And all of our cells are basically frozen and hopefully ready for us when we get back. So we are really lucky in that sense that our cells they freeze well.
Thanks. And thank you for that question. And I do want to ask this one more question from the audience right now. This question comes from Natalie at the Scripps Research Institute. And I will direct this question. Actually, Natalie would like this question directed to both Sandra and Daisy. So Daisy, let's start with you. And the question is, what do you do to keep your work from overtaking your life, your home life, now that they are both under the same roof? So how do you balance both research and your home life under the same roof?
It's a constant struggle for me. I'm not going to lie. It's now coming to week 3 of working from home. So it's been a lot of trial and error for me in terms of what works, what doesn't. I've tried a whole bunch of things. Like, I've read a lot of different articles online, and just with lots of different methods. But I guess, in the end, I think the best thing that works for me, I've realized, is not to be too rigid with my schedule, but rather to set checkpoints for certain tasks to be due. And I think my weekly meetings with my supervisor help to keep me on track. So some sort of attainable goal at a certain time in the week to be due, and hold someone accountable for that. And that way you can kind of coordinate your routine however you like, but ultimately once that task is done, then you do feel that sense of accomplishment. It has been a constant struggle. There's so many distractions everywhere. I've been like putting limits on myself. One somewhat effective method is to set times at which you can do those things that are considered procrastination sort of activity. So by doing that, you can try to like kind of contain how much time goes into those activities.
That's a great idea. I need to start with that. At the time, I don't know. I have a 2-year-old at home too, so it's, you know, for me, it's trying to balance both him and work. But that's a great idea, setting limits, time limits on those things. All right. So how about you, Sandra?
Yeah, I also have a toddler at home, so I really don't have a choice to work all day because I have to take care of her. So that's sort of nice. But at the same time, I have to be very intentional with the time that I do work. So I'm actually doing something similar to what Daisy talked about. I'm kind of implementing this block scheduling idea. And it's basically you have certain hours of the day where you have tasks. And it's not that from 9 to 10, you're going to do this, or 10 to 11. It's just like from 9 to noon. These are the things that have to get done. And it kind of gives you a little more breathing room and a little more grace that you have that window of time to get those things done. And I've really tried to sort of mimic my schedule before this whole lockdown happened. We started self-quarantining early, so we've been in lockdown for like 4 weeks, and it's been a challenge, but we are hanging in there. So really trying to give yourself grace. And some days there's more work involved, and other days is less, especially if there's a lot of Zoom meetings one day, then I don't have much time to get to my computer work. So it's not that every day is the same. And I think giving ourselves a little bit of grace in that and being, okay, today was really work heavy and that I might not have that personal time, but maybe later in the week I can carve out more personal time. So I think being kind to ourselves during this time is really important.
Really good advice. Thanks, Sandra. All right, let's see here. So I would like to remind the audience at this time to submit your questions in the Ask a Question box below the slides in the video. And again, I'll be asking your questions throughout Gibco's questions. And I will also try to address all audience questions at the end of the presentation as well. Also, to questions that we can't get to in this presentation, we will be responding via Instagram or Twitter to all questions that come in, and also email if that works better for you. Let's go to our next question. This is for Elizabeth and Ameet. Let's start with you, Elizabeth. What is a typical day like for you, social distancing? You may be on mute, Elizabeth, because I can't hear you. All right, let's try. Ameet, can you start with this one?
Sure. So we have been quarantining almost for 4 weeks now at the University of Cincinnati. So approximately the week of March 17th, we were told to wind down our experiments. And so I took 1 week to wind everything down, and then I started working from home. So it's been an adjustment, but I do some small things. So basically what I do is I try to keep my routine as normal as possible. So I wake up at the same time that I used to wake up, which was I wake up usually between 6 and 6:30 every morning, and I kept the exact same routine. So what I would do is I wake up, I take the dog out for a walk, then I have breakfast, watch the morning news, and after that I would shower, I would shave every day as I'm going to work normally. Then I would also get dressed, because sometimes what happens is just being in sweatpants all day makes you feel lazy, you know. So I kind of get dressed every time I have like video meetings or something. And then I come downstairs to my temporary office, which is basically my dining table cluttered with papers. And then I work until 5. And I usually have video meetings, and just like what everyone else does, we have been having regular lab meetings every Wednesday mornings. in which we discuss what we have done with our regular work and everything. Also, every Mondays, we have one-on-one meetings with our boss. And then for collaborative projects, we also have meetings with our collaborators during the course of the week. So in between that, I'm lucky enough that I'm writing a paper. So I had to do data analysis, make the figures, and write the manuscript. So that keeps me fairly busy. But then what I do is I take a lunch break around noon, which is my usual time. And then I take the dog out for a walk and then eat my lunch. And just like usual, also like work, what I do is my dinner from yesterday night, I pack for lunch this morning. So I have kept that part of the routine. So I don't cook anything in the morning. So I just eat whatever is there, I microwave and I eat it. So that part of the routine is the same. And I usually work until 5:30 or 6. And then after that, I try to go for a walk or, play in the backyard with the dog. Cook, eat. I love cooking, so make something to eat. Then eat dinner. Then usually watch TV and relax. Also, what helps me in my routine during the week is I set up loose goals for myself during the week. That every Monday morning I take some time to decide like what I'm going to get accomplished during the week, and I write that in a notebook which is next to my desk. And then I make an itemized list what I need to do, what my meetings are, and then I check what I have accomplished. So that helps me to keep on track. Plus our lab meetings and the various interactions we have also helps me keep on track. So that's how I try to stay organized during this, and that's my routine.
I do the same thing. I'm big into checklists, and so writing my to-do list down and checking everything off throughout the day, it helps me so much. And Elizabeth, I think that you're back. This is a live event, folks, so we had a bit of a technical issue, but I think that you're back now, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I missed the question though, so if you wouldn't mind repeating that.
No problem. So the question is, what is a typical day like for you while social distancing?
That is a great question. I have asthma, so I'm actually a high risk individual. So I've been taking social distancing very seriously, and I've been quarantining myself and working from home for the last 4 weeks. It's been rough. I know Kristine mentioned she's an introvert, but I am so exceptionally extroverted. It's insane sometimes, and I miss people and I miss interaction. So it was a little rough in the beginning, and like there was that first week when like it was cool at first. I was like, great, I can like sleep in a little bit, work from home. It's going to be awesome. And then it kind of got like a little depressing, and I was sad and I miss people, which is totally normal. Like it's okay. This has never happened before in modern times. Like it's okay to be a little off while you're adjusting to everything. I got back into the swing of things. I had to set a routine for myself, which is like getting up and getting ready as if I'm going to work. So that means getting up, doing what I would normally do. So, putting makeup on, getting dressed in work clothes, eating my protein bar for breakfast. I know for for a little bit, I was actually hopping in my car and just driving around the block, and then like coming back inside to simulate that I was like driving to work to keep my routine. And then I set, the time points, like answer emails in the morning, when I'm, not really awake yet and still kind of getting everything together. And then my dogs are fighting in the background. And then that's been the biggest distraction working from home, is my 2 adorable dogs who want my attention all the time. But then it's like, I'm working on some review articles right now, as well as like editing review articles for some of my coworkers. So doing that kind of thing in the afternoon. And then taking my dogs for a walk before dinner, and then to socialize, I'm either spending time with my husband and doing like Netflix and like binging a show, or the recent thing we've been doing is a Zoom happy hour, where all my friends, we all get our favorite drink. We log in and we socialize over webcams. So I get my little extroverted fix, and keeping that kind of like normal schedule as best I can while working from home has been like super great for me.
Yeah. Let's see the dog. Where's Wishbone? No.
So this is Thor. He was kind of playing earlier. Every once in a while, I would see him pop up on the screen. I had to hide his squeaky in my desk because then he'd be really annoying in the background. And Wishbone is antisocial right now. But yeah, if you hear them, they're in the background playing.
Awesome. Thanks, Elizabeth. All right, so I want to move to questions from the audience now, because we are getting so many. Here is a question from Andrew. And Vivek, let's direct this one to you because I haven't gotten a chance to hear from you yet. So Andrew says, I am starting on my PhD. Since out of the lab, I'm looking for ways to keep myself engaged. What ideas can you give early PhD students or graduate students to do at home during this time?
Oh, wow, that's a pretty serious question. But so to answer it, like, so let's break it down. Like if we see like undergrad students, what I would suggest is there are plenty of online resources. Obviously, most of the undergrads right now are busy with their finals, or they're busy with some other things. But after your final exams, you have plenty of online resources. Students can log into Coursera, they can log into edX, Harvard online programs. Also, Thermo Fisher also has online resource center, learning center where they can log in. And believe me, like everything is free. You just have to log in and select whichever subject you want, and then you can start off the course. And obviously there are certifications. So if students are interested in going ahead for any certification, you can have a certification in that particular area. So that is something which I would recommend for undergrads. Like, you have plenty of time right now. You can invest the time into maybe online learning a particular subject which you like, which would enhance your career. Second thing is, if you're new into your PhD course, you can go for learning scientific writing. Like that is a major challenge which a lot of undergrads, grads, and early PhD students face. Like in one of the surveys which we conducted, it came up that a lot of students face a problem writing the introduction. So my mentor always tells me, like, writing a research paper is something like you are a director of a movie, and you have to direct it, like, and all the components should be there. Like, there should be an actor, there should be some drama, there should be some kind of, everything. So research paper writing is also a very important skill. So, students can engage into research writing. Another component is graphical representations. So there are plenty of softwares. BioRender is one software where students can learn how to use BioRender, how to use graphical representations. GraphPad Prism is another software where you can really make good graphs, good graphical abstracts, graphical statistical tools. You can learn those. Also. If any of you are interested in like something like learning intellectual property, because we as researchers, we always get involved with lab routine and getting to know about intellectual property rights and how you could file patents, how you can protect your research, how you can translate your research from a lab to an industry. Then WIPO, which is World Intellectual Property Right Organization. So they have these free training workshop and modules on their website. You can just go ahead and select any of those training workshops. This would give you more of an in-depth knowledge that how do you translate your lab research to an industrial research? How do you have that pathway going towards commercializing your research or something? Second thing is, you can also speak with your mentor if you can write a review article during this time, because everyone is at home. So it would be more like, I guess the review article, if you write right now, it will eventually become your first introduction chapter of a thesis. So writing a review article is one thing. And lastly, for some senior PhD students, you can train yourself on writing research grants. So maybe go on nsf.gov or nih.gov or DoD websites where you have these templates of research grants. So how do you write research grant? How do you prepare budgets? What is a particular format? So, all those things you can do it in this phase. And I personally believe, like, this is a really good time for everyone, since they are at home and you have plenty of time with you to think and to plan your work in such a way that you learn something different. And I mean, this is something which is to me, but I would definitely like to suggest everyone that science is something like it cannot be divided in subjects. Like I hear a lot of time, like, people are like, oh, I'm a molecular biologist, so I need not worry about any other discipline, or I'm an electrical engineer, I need not worry about biochemistry. But ultimately, everything is connected to science, and if you have knowledge of every particular discipline, it elevates you. Like you have a very different horizon, like to think on a research topic or to discuss. So there are several activities which students can engage themselves. The most easiest one I would suggest is go online. There are plenty of resources, and do a small certification course. So that's it.
Thanks, Vivek. That was nice. That was comprehensive and wonderful. Thank you so much. I would also like to let everybody know that online that we have a lot of great resources on thermofisher.com, specifically thermofisher.com/connect to science. You'll find a lot of webinars and app notes and a lot of resources during this time, also for free. So take a look there as well.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing? So one more thing is like some of the students can also enroll into some scientific membership like ACS or RSC, because if you're a member of those communities, once you're a member, you get to know a lot about internship opportunities, travel grants. You get to collaborate with different students from their community. So that is something which you can do later, not now, but at least if students can think of enrolling themselves into scientific memberships. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, so let's move to our next question then. This question is for Kristine and Ameet. So Kristine, we'll start with you. What advice can you give to your peers who are working from home and they are having a hard time finding a rhythm?
Oh, okay. So I feel as though Ameet has really given a really good summary. One thing I would say is that, and I've done this before, and I happen to be been privileged enough. I live in Buffalo, New York, and the rent is actually pretty cheap here. So we do have an extra bedroom, which is where I'm in now. And so this space, ever since I moved in here, which is 6 years ago now, it is for work only. So grant writing, I do sometimes stay home I choose to stay home to write something if I have some kind of grant or paper or something that I want to write. So I find having a separate space, but of course not everyone has all that space. So I would just choose 2 different chairs and be like, this is my chair at my dining room that I'm eating my dinner and relaxing. This is the chair, my work chair. They could be the same chair, but just like sit in a different area. I find that because we're used to having the physical transition of leaving the house, coming back in the house, and psychologists have known for a long time when you go in and you're struggling with anxiety, you go in and see a talk therapist. That's one of the things they ask often about when you're struggling with anxiety is about transitions. I actively think about that, even transitioning to sleep time, like different things like that. I kind of need a defined transition. So that's one of the good, healthy way to do that. So.
Thanks, Kristine. And Ameet, I know that you did already touch on this a little bit earlier. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about how you're working to find a rhythm, in keeping up with your work?
Well, let me say something just a little bit different. So what I want to say is you get in the rhythm because many times we have goals that we have set up and this is something we want to achieve, but it's not 100% all the time. I know several of us are having trouble finding a rhythm or trying to achieve their goals as to what they want to do, but what I want to tell them is that, don't be too hard on yourself. Right now we are in difficult times and all of us are pretty much adjusting to a new reality of life. So I would like to tell people that it's okay to be anxious, but At the same time, what I would say is that, like what I said earlier, is that set some kind of an achievable goal for yourself. And even when you achieve those small victories, it will make you feel good. So don't worry about not feeling unproductive, or, oh, if I don't get this done, if I don't write that paper in like 2 weeks, what will my boss think, or what will people think? We are all in this together, and people will definitely understand. Also, what I would like to tell people is, in spite of the hectic schedule, do take some time out for some self-care and to maintain your own sanity. Connect with your friends, connect with your co-workers. If you're having any trouble, communicate honestly with your supervisor or your boss and tell them how you're feeling. Connect with your friends using FaceTime or Zoom or any kind of web chat. Call the phone, talk to your family. Also check in on your neighbors, and just take care of yourselves and be kind to one another. That's how we will all get through this. So that's all I want to say about that.
Thanks so much, Ameet. So I actually have a question. It's kind of similar to one that we have already asked, but I did want to ask this one specifically because it's coming from our Instagram account, actually. And this one is for Sandra, and it's from Amal Hassan, or at Science PhD Creative. And sorry, I'm going to read this from my phone since it's coming in from Instagram, and it says, "Thanks so much for organizing this webinar." You're welcome, Amal. And I'm going to ask this one to Sandra, because it says, in case of Zoom lab meetings, I'm curious to know any advice or tips of staying productive and less distracted. So Sandra, you can take that question any way you like, whether it's Zoom lab meetings or just working from home in general. What are you doing, or what advice tips can you give for staying productive and less distracted? Thanks, Amal.
Yeah, for me, staying less distracted is huge because, like I said, I have a little 2-year-old distraction running around constantly, needing my attention. But I really try to set goals. And I know a lot of us have mentioned this, but really try to set goals, and attainable goals, I think, is huge too. Even if it's literally make your bed, check those small, that just like feeling of checking that box will give you the momentum that you have. And by nature, I'm very list oriented, and I'm very schedule oriented even before this whole lockdown. So, and that might not work for everyone, right? That might be someone's like worst nightmare to have that. So I think the most important tip is to really do a self-reflection and see what works for you. Making lists and kind of planning out my days in those blocks has been pretty effective to maintain the productivity, and having clear goals for myself has been helpful, and giving myself grace that I might not achieve all those things that day, and that's okay. I'll pick up the next day and continue them. So really doing some self-reflection and seeing what works for you, what works before this whole lockdown. How can you really make that transition, and how can you implement that to your current situation, and giving yourself a little bit of flexibility that, like many of us said, this is unprecedented. We have unprecedented challenges, and every day is different. So really day by day, and trying to have clear goals, I think, is going to be very helpful, trying to stay productive.
Awesome. Thank you. So here's a more fun question, I think, or one that is a little bit more refreshing, looking towards when this is all over, coming from our audience. And they did not leave a name, so I'm just going to read the question here and address it to Elizabeth and Vivek. It's from, it's from Kathy from ASU. Sorry, Kathy. So, what do you look forward to doing when you're free from quarantine? Oh, that sounds wonderful. Elizabeth, we can start with you.
I've already made a list. I have to have something to look forward to and focus on. That's going to be great for when this all is, it helps me get through knowing that I have things to look forward to at the end. I've already started designing experiments I'm going to do in lab when I get back. So it's having that design set up, even where I'm going to put my beakers and pipettes and all of that. I have that all laid out. because I'm ready to go when lab opens back up again. In personal life, though, I absolutely miss my gym like crazy. I love to lift heavy. So I am really looking forward to going to the gym because, you know, working out at home and going for a run and using like exercise bands and free weights isn't the same as like deadlifting your body weight. So I really miss the gym. That's the other one. And then the third one, I miss my favorite bar / restaurant in New Orleans. And they closed down obviously for, you know, employee safety. But when this is all over, I'm going to go get a burger and a Bloody Mary with a bunch of my friends at my favorite, you know, bar restaurant in New Orleans. So we've already like set all that up. And those are the three things I'm like super looking forward to.
So exciting. I know that there's a lot of scientists, cell culture scientists, especially missing their cell babies right now. And so I can only imagine what that's like. How about you, Vivek?
So I live in Miami, and you know, I'm missing out on a lot of things because you know, like this city has a different vibe altogether. But I'm just waiting, like, you know, once this thing just gets over, I'm just gonna go to the lab. My cells are waiting for me. I had to cryopreserve them. You know, I didn't had any option. Although, you know, I wanted to work, but yeah, I mean, they're waiting for me. And then we have some experiments. I mean, so this is the thing. Like early in Jan, I thought that okay, 2020 is going to be the best year for me because all my experiments are lined up, and you know, I'm really gonna make get really good publications. But then this thing happened, and then my undergrads who are working with me, they keep on teasing me like, okay, so we're not going to the lab, so you know, it's so nice and stuff like that. But I'm actually waiting that once everything just gets over, I'll be just going to the lab and starting back work. So I'm just waiting for that.
Yeah, I know. And both of your questions tie into one of our audience members' questions. So I don't need to ask this, but Greg from Iris Bio, he asked pretty much the same thing. What experiments are you planning as soon as you get back in the lab, or are you thinking about experiments? So I know that most of you are probably just counting down to get back into the lab. So thanks so much for that question, Greg. Okay, so let's move to our next question. And also, I just want to remind the audience to submit questions, write them in the Ask a Question box below. Although I think that most of you are finding them because we're just seeing so many questions come in, and I promise that we will address everybody, if not in this webinar, then after the webinar. So my next question is for Daisy and Elizabeth. Daisy, we'll start with you. And it's another refreshing question. What is something positive to come from working from home?
For me, the biggest positive thing is to really have this precious time to like sit down and read and write, which is something that I think it's really hard to carve out that time generally when you're doing experiments, because your mind's in experiment mode. And you almost have this guilt if you're not at the bench generating new data. So yeah, it's been really great for me to finally hone in on my review article and try to dive into the literature. The other thing is that I started my postdoc in January last year, so I've collected a good year and a bit's worth of data that I am now trying to how it fits into the bigger picture of my field. And just to find those missing pieces. So for me, it's been like taking a really good look at the data that I have so far, seeing if I can actually turn it into a manuscript, maybe. That'd be great. Yeah. But yeah, just trying to find those missing pieces for when I do go back to the lab, I can immediately get started on filling those gaps. So yeah, it's actually been that's one really big positive thing to come of this, because I think I've never had to slow down this much in my life. So it's really taught me a lot about that, and patience as well.
Thank you so much, Daisy. And Elizabeth, something positive for you to come from working from home?
Well, I know something my boss is going to love. I like to move around a lot and be really active. So lab work is one of my favorite things, and reading journal articles, you know, I do it recommend at least one journal article a day, but like people are always publishing, tons of new papers are coming out every day. It's hard to stay up on top of things. And so, working from home has forced me to like actually have to sit down and like get caught up on all of the literature, that got put to the side because I was doing experiments in the lab all the time. And then personally, another positive that came out of it, in January and February, we were doing a lot of cell staining. And the protocol we had set up was about 10 hours. And so I'd just knock it all out and be at work like all day. I'd get home, it was dark, it was time to eat and like go to bed and stuff. And so being able to be home, I can, walk my dogs during the daytime, which they absolutely love. I can have dinner with my husband and spend time with him. So like I've appreciated the fact that it's forced me to slow down and spend quality time with like my dogs and my husband. So I really appreciate that too.
Awesome. Thanks. And thanks. I just want to give everyone shout outs who's tagging us on social right now. So Science, PhD Creative again, Falso Pasa A2. Thanks so much, guys. And then also, I would love to hear from the audience on that last question. So what is something positive to come from working from home? Tweet us your answers at Gibco. Let us know something positive that you've experienced while working from home. We're all looking for some light during this time, so I would love to hear from you. Okay, so we have a more personal social question coming from Sapna at UCLA, and we will direct this question to Kristine. So Kristine, have you taken any hobbies since social distancing measures have been put in place?
Yes. Okay, so I'm really excited about this. So prior to this, so my shift, the time for me to work is like 10 a.m. to 3 or 4. And I am a morning person, so I was never really home from 7 to 10. And I noticed that there were tons of birds perching on my porch. I live in a house, but the upper part, and we have a porch. And so I saw all these birds perching. Right now, it's only just starting to get a little warm. Like, it's not even warm. It's like 40 degrees. Let's be honest. It definitely snowed like a few days ago. It's Buffalo. But the birds come now this time. So I bought a bird feeder now. And every morning, like I get up in the morning time when I usually would get up, and now I have my tea or coffee in front of the window and I watch the birds. And now I'm learning all about the different birds around. And I'm also like, I'm really interested possibly in collecting data about it, but maybe that's a scientist in me. Like if I had a webcam, I could count as many birds come to it, the length of time they perch, all this kind of stuff. I'm really starting to get interested in this, and I wasn't really interested. I never even noticed the bird much before. So, so that's cool.
I love that. Okay, wow. So this is my last question, and then we're going to be moving to all audience member questions in the last 10 minutes here. And I would like to direct this question to Sandra and Ameet. Sandra, what are some things that audience members can be doing at home during quarantine? Sorry.
Yeah, so I think some of the most useful things that I've tried to accomplish during this time is really go back and look up the data that I have. So to really do an analysis of all the data that I've collected that's not been published, and try to see if I can write up a manuscript or try to, make sense of that data and see if anything that really fits into a nice story, and start to write that paper. And I've also started to outline manuscripts for projects that are in process. And these just, drafting the introduction or drafting figures that I already have completed, drafting results and materials, like materials and method section stuff that we usually just, do at the end. So once I get back to the lab, then I'll really have, that you should be thinking like you should always be doing that. But unfortunately, I don't. So it's really, those are like the couple things that are really been helpful. And also, I have a student that works with me, and she's been really helpful in helping me spruce up any presentations that I might have coming up. And since now most of them are in Zoom, she's been really great at adding more animation and more changing it a little bit different since it's virtually rather than in person. So really sprucing up upcoming presentations, improving the images, using BioRender. We recently started using that, has been great. Improving grant figures, things like that. So really writing up complete or almost complete papers, outlining manuscript for projects that are in process, and sprucing up presentations are some of the key things that I think are pretty helpful.
That's a great idea for the presentations. I forgot about that. And how about you, Ameet? Is there anything else that you would like to add there?
So basically, Sandra and Vivek have already touched on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So what I have been doing is working on my paper, but at the same time, I'm also attending a lot of webinars online to learn a lot. And I have also recently jumped on the BioRender bandwagon. And BioRender has weekly webinars that they do on how to make good figures for grants, how to organize a PowerPoint. So those have been very useful. And I'm doing some schemes for my paper using BioRender. So it has been very useful. Also for this paper, I have some data using nanostring. So I'm trying to navigate how to utilize the pathway analysis and everything for nanostring. I had never done single cell, like RNA-seq kind of analysis before. So it's all new for me. So I'm learning that and I'm educating myself on that. So apart from doing my day job, which I think is doing my paper, I'm utilizing this time to also attend a lot of webinars and learn newer things, which I wouldn't have time usually in working the usual 12-hour days in the lab, So I can learn a lot new things and maybe add to my skill set. Also, another tip, what I had read somewhere online, which I would like to share with the audience. I personally haven't done it because it's very intimidating for me. But a lot of people are saying that this is a very, very good opportunity to learn R, the R package for making graphics and learn programming in R, because it's going to be very useful in the future, for that. So I would encourage people to into it. So.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much, Ameet. And so everyone, that concludes Gibco's questions, but we have so many questions that I don't think we will get to everybody, but I'm going to try hard in this last 5 minutes or so to address some questions from the audience. And so I would like to start things off with a fun one that just keeps, this question has been staring at me since I've seen it come in, and so I'm going to ask it to Elizabeth. What shows are you binge watching right now? Have you seen Tiger King?
That's a great question. So binge watching, I'm trying to stay on the positive, happy shows. Just to, humor is great. Laughter is one of the best medicines. So I've been watching, binging Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Superstore, those short 30-minute comedies. So I get that little boost and pick me up. And yes, eventually I gave in and watched Tiger King because I was really curious. But don't worry, my dog also enjoyed it too. They were fascinated by the tigers and the large animals on the screen, and they were constantly running up to sit there and just stare at it. So I think they got more enjoyment out of it than I did. But short comedies are my thing.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thank you, guys.
I do want to add in, Ameet mentioned watching webinars and things like that. There's a really good one out from Greater Good Science, and I can post the link, I think, on Twitter later, but it's a free webinar on maintaining happiness during the COVID-19 crisis. And so they have little activities and homework assignments, just to help you stay happy and sane during this time. And I think it's a very great webinar. So I'm going to, promote that one a little bit.
Thank you so much. And actually, that was a question that came in from the audience, and I can't find who asked this question now, but it was that I hit a question from the audience. So thank you so much for saying that, Elizabeth. And I also just want to say, with this topic of webinars, of course, we have all of our Gibco Cell Culture webinars at thermofisher.com Cell Culture Heroes. You can see all of these wonderful speakers' webinars about their research, but also I think about 15 other webinars that you can watch on demand on thermofisher.com for free, covering so many different topics. 3D cell culture, immunotherapies, cancer, whatever it is. So take a look at Gibco Cell Culture Heroes webpage as well.
And if you missed lab, I was gonna say, if you missed lab, the Thermo Fisher has that virtual lab you can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give everybody links to that after the webinar too. So this next question, actually, we're gonna make this our last question, because sadly we have to end soon. But this next question comes from Julia from Cal State for Sandra. So you said that you have a 2-year-old at home. I do too. How have you been balancing the guilt of either paying attention to your work or your toddler? Have you found success in making sure that they have both been getting the appropriate attention? Great question.
So short answer, no, I have not. If you have the secret, please let me know. But so like I said, my day mostly revolves around her schedule. So I tend to do most of my Zoom meetings, or I try to schedule most of my Zoom meetings and things like that during her nap time. She's still napping for about 2.5 hours, so it gives me a little bit of time to jam those meetings in. And then most of my focus work will either happen after she goes to bed at night, or my husband is also working from home, so we kind of, play tag team constantly. And in an ideal world, I'll be the best like Pinterest creative mom and the most productive postdoc, but that's not my reality. And I try to set her up. If I have, emails or computer work, I try to set her up with an activity that usually gives me about 5 minutes at a time. And I can, do what I need to do in those couple minutes, and then just we're on to a next activity. I'm really looking forward to where I live. It's still winter basically. So I'm looking forward to the nice weather where I can just take her outside and maybe bring my computer along. But yeah, I have not found the magic. And some days I feel like I'm crushing it at mom life, and some days I feel like I'm crushing it at postdoc life. And, some days I feel like both. Some days I feel like not either of them. But it's a by day basis. So.
Thank you. I think that there's probably a lot of us that can relate, whether it be kids at home or working with your new coworker who is your roommate, or family who are also working from home. This is a super weird time for everybody. And I think that we're all just taking it one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time. So thank you for that, Sandra. So that actually concludes our Gibco Cell Culture Heroes Work from Home edition. We encourage all of our audience members to continue submitting questions, if you haven't already, on Twitter by tweeting at Gibco and using our hashtag Gibco Cell Culture Heroes. You can also tag us in your Instagram stories at Gibco Cell Culture. Again, we have so many questions that we did not have the chance to address today, but we will get to everybody through email, Twitter, however it is that you reached out to us. So also, again, I would like you to check out our Gibco Cell Culture Heroes webpage. Again, I mentioned this in the webinar, but you can watch these speakers' webinars on their research as well as their other heroes research. And that's the link is right there that you can click. And finally, we mentioned a lot of resources available to you in this time when you're looking for education and articles and things like that. So to help your research momentum while out of the lab, Thermo Fisher Scientific has compiled a very rich collection of webinars and e-learning courses, app notes, videos, articles, and more, which can be found at thermofisher.com/connect2science. So I encourage you to check that out. Thank you all so much for joining. I hope that you stay safe, and we hope to see you back in the lab very soon. Thank you.